garnished a lot of interest behind you, Senator Surovell. Why don't you tell us what the bill does?
Interesting. Nobody came to see me about it. Mr. Chairman, basically this bill has to do with open-end credit plans. And as I think the committee knows, in 2009, the legislature put restrictions on payday loans. In 2010, we authorized car title loans. In 2011, we extended car title loans to out-of-state car titles. And what's happened since then is that a lot of these lenders who we placed a lot of consumer protections on their loans have started to use these open-end credit plans to evade the very same protections that we put on them. And so now you see some of the same lenders that we restricted from giving high interest loans, making loans on these open-end credit plans at 200% interest rates. Alternatively, you see lenders that are doing the same thing with open-end credit that we prohibited on payday. For example, doing loan after loan after loan. The Poverty Law Center is here, and they can test. They have some specific cases they can cite you to of examples. But basically, all this says is if you're going to do these open-end credit loans, you have to live under the same consumer protections that we put on the others. So you cannot electronically debit the borrower's account. If you want to sue them, you have to comply with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You cannot make an open-end credit loan to somebody who already has an open-end credit loan. And also, very importantly, that these protections apply to loans made over the internet. And I cannot emphasize how important that is. These internet loans in Virginia are 100% completely unregulated, 100%. My next bill we're going to cover also covers internet loans as well. But we had the Bureau of Financial Institutions convened a group of stakeholders over the last year, and I went to 3 separate meetings with the BFI and with all the stakeholders trying to come up with a system to try and deal with internet loans. I'm not sure we really came up with a consensus or not, but these internet loans have to be dealt with, and this is one of the ways we can deal with this in my next bill, or the way to deal with these internet loans, which right now are 100% completely unregulated. I don't think Virginians ought to be able to. I don't think we should allow people, whether it's Indian tribes or foreign countries, to come in here and lend money to Virginians at 400% interest rates and stick them with judgments. And that's kind of a summary of the bill. I'm happy to take any questions. I know that there's some people here to testify in favor of it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator McDougal.
Maybe I'm missing something, but if, say, an Indian tribe out of New York State makes a loan and they put in the provisions of the loan, the venue for all litigation would be New York State, and they get a judgment in New York State, how do you prohibit that in Virginia?
Well, Jay here, he can speak to it, but there's actually been some settlements with some of these. What happens is some of these Indian tribes will use a company as a front, and then the company will actually make the loan. And if we prohibit those companies from making those loans to people inside Virginia, I think we gives our consumers and our Attorney General a means by which they can do something about it if they're doing that. And I think, and Dave Irwin from the Attorney General's office is here. He can describe some of the situations they've had to litigate involving that.
Dave, come on up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dave Irvin with the Consumer Protection Section of the Attorney General's office. Oh, I'm sorry. I am not aware of folks being sued in other states relating to the tribal loans. We have brought some lawsuits against tribal lenders, or actually purported tribal lenders. They were not actually a tribal lender. The entity making the loans was not owned and operated by the tribe. It was owned and operated by a tribal member. Cash Call is the one that has gotten the most attention. So we're not aware of the situation that you've described. Believe that if this law passes, this will allow Virginians to be protected, so that they would need to be sued here, and they obviously would be able to bring actions under the Virginia Consumer Protection Act here and defend on that basis. So I'm not aware of that particular concern having played out in practice. Whether it may be, but it's just not something that we have heard about.
Questions? Okay, do we have those who wish to speak in favor? We're on the clock.
Jay Spear with the Virginia Poverty Law Center, and we do support this bill. As Senator Surovell said, what we've run into is we had a client up in Hanover who borrowed $2,000, paid back $16,000 over about 3 years, and he still owed the $2,000. And that's what the open end. That's what happens when these folks use this loophole. We have another place here in Richmond called Advance Till Payday. We had a client who borrowed $100, and they were charging an $80 per month fee for that $100. And so this has become the way for former payday lenders to not follow the payday loan law. In addition, we have these online lenders that are claiming they're doing internet open-end loans so that it can also avoid our law. So we really need to close this loophole so that we can put a stop to this and have them regulated just the way we have regulated other high-cost lenders. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, again, Dave Irvin. The Attorney General supports the substitute version of this bill. Open-end credit is, we believe, an outlier in our consumer finance statutes, and we've referred to it in the past as kind of exemplifying the wild, wild west of consumer lending. There's no license requirement that applies. There's no oversight by the State Corporation Commission. And most importantly, there's no limit in the law that applies on the interest rate that can be permitted. This is different from the regulation of all other kind of borrower of last resort forms of lending, whether it's payday loans, motor vehicle title loans, pawnbroker loans, consumer finance company loans up to $2,500. All of those, there's a licensing requirement, and there's also an imposition of interest rate limits. Believe that this bill, if it is adopted, would take some meaningful first steps in regulating this product. Right now, we're aware of 16 companies that are offering this product. We have sued actually 4 of those companies. 7 of the companies have operated brick and mortar. 9 of the companies have operated over the internet. That number will only continue to grow if we don't take some meaningful steps now to regulate the product. We urge you to adopt the bill. If Virginia is going to allow non-sellers to offer this product, certainly believe that the consumer protections that are provided here will provide a small step in the right direction of limiting. Addressing again Senator McDougal's question, we have not had issues with the tribal lenders in the open-end context. That's certainly something that we may see in the future. With tribal lenders, those have tended to be closed-end installment loans that will be addressed by Senate Bill 625 and also by House Bill 1248 on the House side. So we urge you to adopt the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kevin Maurer. I'm with the Virginia Catholic Conference, and for many of the reasons already stated, we do support the bill. We'd like to close this loophole to ensure that some of the most vulnerable Virginians aren't continued to take advantage of. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there those opposed to this bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Robert Barada. I'm here today on behalf of Check Into Cash, a brick and mortar lender that does open-end lending here in Virginia. We've been doing it for about a decade now. I just want to bring to your attention that this bill does very little to reduce the cost of lending, to make lending more affordable for people that need it. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things in the bill that are particularly problematic. The first is the prescription against electronic debit authorization that's in the bill, meaning that we cannot ask people who are getting the loans to use electronic debit for that. Customers want that. It's convenient for customers. Instead, the customer will have to come back every time to the store where they got the open-end loan with cash to make the payment. This is the 21st century. Everybody uses electronic transfers, especially in the banking industry. The next thing is that it cuts down processing costs for us as well to help us keep the cost of those loans down. It also says that we are subject to the Federal Debt Collection Practices Act, which we already are. So it's a statement of fact. Putting it in the Code of Virginia isn't going to change anything. We still have to abide by that. There's a problematic provision in there that says that we cannot extend to a consumer more than one loan at a time. There's no way we know that. All we can do is ask the consumer that unless there's some kind of database that we can access. So it's impossible for us to comply with that. And then it would make any violations of the provisions of this section subject to the Virginia Consumer Protection Act with its private cause of action provisions that in effect would invite needless and costly litigation. I'd also bring to your attention a few things. One, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on October 4th of last year promulgated a 1,690-page rule package on payday, vehicle title, and certain high-cost installment loans. Those rules have not yet taken effect and could affect lending in Virginia. And over the past summer, the Bureau of Financial Institutions hosted a work group on consumer finance lending that included open-end installment lending. Any kind of consensus that came out of that is reflected in a bill in the other body that Delegate Kilgore is carrying. And then finally, I would want to emphasize that nothing in SB 624 would help it make it any easier or cheaper to extend open-end loans to consumers who may need them. One could argue it would have the opposite effect. For these reasons, I urge you not to look favorably on the legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Morgan Guthridge representing Community Choice Financial. We operate First Virginia Loans. We have 25 stores in Central and Eastern Virginia. We've been in business for about 25 years. We employ 153 Virginians. We offer a variety of financial products ranging from prepaid debit cards, Western Union services, money orders, tax preparation services, and lines of credit. The line of credit product is the only one that we offer out of our stores. I would just note that if you take out a line of credit with us and you pay it back within 30 days, there's 0 interest charged, and 25% of our customers fall into this area. In the interest of time, I'll just associate myself with Mr. Barada's comments as far as the bill and would ask that you all would oppose Senate Bill 624. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Senator Sproul.
Yes, the gentleman who just left.
Mr. Guthridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So if I get a loan, so if I pay it back 30 days, no interest.
Yes, sir.
Now, what is your interest rate on the average? So I'm not going to pay it back in 30 days. I'm aboard 6 months or what have you. What are your interest rate?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sproul, it varies on the amount borrowed, but generally our rates run from 18 to 20 to 22%. The more you borrow, the lower the interest rate will be. On an annualized basis, it comes out to about 150 to 264% on an annualized basis.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Senator Sproul.
So if a long-term loan, so if I would have to borrow $4,000 and a long-term loan, so you're saying that I know if I get a loan from a bank, I know what my interest rates can be every month. So are you saying on a long-term loan, it could be up to 100%? On a long-term loan? What is your interest rate if I bought for 3 years, 3 or 4 years, on a loan that you give me for 3 or 4 years? What is the interest rate over that long period of time?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'm bought $3,000 from your bank.
Right.
And I can't pay it back in 6 months, but you make an agreement for me to pay it back in 2 years.
Mr. Chairman, we work with all our customers to try to set up a time in order to pay it back.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that you work up a time. You can work out a time with me because I can't pay a lump sum. You can work out a time with me to pay it back in 2 years. Okay?
Yes, sir. And we also, Mr. Chairman.
Wait a minute. No, I'm trying to get my question. So now you're saying, well, because of my financial situation, you can work it out with me for 2 years. Now my question is that, so in 2 years, so what are my interest rates going to be for the 2 years? That's my question. For 2 years, I'm paying your money back. So, sir, what are my interest rate back for that money for 2 years? What is the interest rate would be finally when I pay it off? The interest rate on the loan.
For a $4,000 loan, you're looking at likely an 18% rate per month that you go over the 30 days.
I'm not going to go over. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to go over. I'm paying on time every month. I'm not going to go over. For 2 years, I'm going to pay on time every month. So after 2 years, would it go over 18%?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Senator Sproul, if you are paying on time.
Yes, sir.
Then you will not be charged interest if you keep making your 30-day repayments on the loan.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator McDougal.
if I understand, these are short-term loans. These are not long-term. So the terms of the loan are 30 days. So it's not a 2-year loan. That's not a term option that you can really get, if I understand. That's
Thank
correct.
you.
Okay.
One question.
Senator Sproul.
Then in that case, then, unless Senator Surovell was not telling the truth, I'm not gonna say, because unless he's misleading me, is it true that he was saying that people pay 100% loan on the short-term loan, they pay up to 100% interest rate on the short-term loan? Are you aware of that case, that they're paying over 36% interest rate on a loan, a short-term loan?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sproul, I've certainly heard instances to that point. That's certainly not a practice of our company. Again, if you can pay back within the 30 days, then there is no interest. Depending on the amount borrowed, that would have a bearing on what the monthly interest rate would be. We certainly try to work with our borrowers to pay it down as fast as possible. We also offer a rapid payment plan where we pay down the principal and work with them so that they don't get too far off with the loan and accrue too much interest.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Senator.
I
Are
have
there
a-
others?
I have a question for the gentleman who spoke before you. Sir, how you doing? You raised the question that if I borrow a loan from you, and you said that you have no way of telling that I want a second loan, you have no way of telling if I come in and borrow a second loan. I think when I go to my bank and I borrow a loan from my bank, and when I go again, have not finished paying it off yet, and I go again to borrow money, they can go in a computer somewhere and say, hey, wait a minute, you got a loan already. So, but I heard you said that you have no way of telling that if a person is getting a second loan. Did I misunderstand you on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, no, you did not misunderstand me. What it says in the proposed bill is that we cannot offer a loan to someone that would then make them have 2 installment loans. I was saying that the only way I know that someone would have an installment loan is if they were trying to get it from me.
So
I don't know if they've gone down the street to somebody else and took one out, unless there's some kind of database that we can access. That's what I was getting at there.
Last question then, is there any evidence, Senator Surovell, he's an honest person, is there any evidence that he was saying that some, not your company, but some companies do charge astronomical interest rate on a small loan?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sproul, I have read that the Attorney General has prosecuted certain companies for such a thing. That is not the practice of our company. You know, we try to work with people when they get into trouble and try to get them out of trouble. But there are those out there, as you know.
I believe you. You're an honest man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions by the committee? Senator Surovell, why don't you finish up and let's go.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
I'm sorry, Senator Black.
The one point that was just raised about the lender not knowing whether there is a loan with a separate company, I wonder if it would be possible, and I don't know, I don't have it in front of my battery just gave out on the computer, but I wonder, would it be harmful to put something in there that would limit it to only one loan with a particular company?
I don't think so, but I will tell the senator that the language in this bill was taken straight out of the existing car title bill and the statute and the existing payday loan statute, which is something those other lenders are already having to live under.
I see.
So I don't believe anybody's come and said to us that it's not workable the way it currently exists for them. And they haven't, I don't think, have had a problem with it. Or if they have, maybe they got sued, but they've been here to ask us to change it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could finish.
Sure, absolutely,
Okay.
wrap up.
So, first of all, I appreciate Mr. Guthridge coming to me, and I'd had a chance to talk to him about his concerns. Mr. Barada, I found out today at the podium. Perhaps if we had talked, I could have corrected him on some of the things he said, which were just flat out incorrect. First of all, with regard to these provisions about electronic debiting, car title lenders and payday lenders are not allowed to electronically debit today. That's been the law in this state since 2009 and 2010. If they were having problems with not having electronic debiting, I would have thought Title Max, Loan Max, payday lenders, Reggie Jones and his people would have been in here and asked us to fix it. They seem to be using it. It seems to be working fine. Doesn't seem to be a problem. Number two, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. The reason that this language is in about the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, making it applicable to them, is because it currently doesn't apply. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act is a federal law, and it only applies when a third party goes to collect somebody's debt. But if you go to collect your own debt, the FDCPA does not kick in. So if these open-end lenders want to use harassing tactics, they want to keep calling you even though you have a lawyer, they want to call your employer, they want to try and publicly embarrass you, they're allowed to do all those things because we don't have similar protections for our Virginians that we give to car title loans and for payday. So, you know, what we have here is we set up a system in 09 and 10 for these lenders, and instead of following our laws, they just went out and now they're using these open-end credit products to evade the laws we passed. And if our laws are going to have teeth, you know, we can't keep playing whack-a-mole. We need to keep them within the protections we've adopted. And as to the senator from Chesapeake question, you heard Mr. Guthridge, for their short-term loans, for their small short-term loans, people are paying 200+% interest because it's 18% per month. And when you add that up on an annual basis, it goes over 100, 200%. So, you know, we met 3 times with the BFI in their office. Mr. Face is here. Delegate Kilgore's bill is a vague attempt at consensus, but there was not a full consensus in that room. We met 3 times, and you know this and the next bill you're going to see, I think, are the best solution, I think, to deal with the problem. So I would hope the committee would act favorably on it. Again, Senator Saslow, who's upstairs at the Northern Virginia delegation meeting, is co-sponsoring with me, and along with Senator Black, which I appreciate. So hope the committee would act favorably.
Okay. Any other people? Any other questions? Okay, the committee operates by motion. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 624 be reported. Any discussion? Clerk, open the roll. No, Cosgrove is not voting. No, he's not voting. Okay, clerk, close the roll.
5 ayes, 8 nays.
Okay.